Hey guys, what's going on? Mr. Happy here, and I just wanted to do a quick coverage about Resident Evil Revelations raid mode. Now, I figured, everybody's, who's interested in the game most likely has played the campaign on the 3DS before considering getting it over on the console port. And there's so much information about the campaign as it is, because the game is so old that I couldn't really find a way to integrate it into a video that would be interesting or at least that would pique people's curiosity about what the game really has to offer. However, raid mode is a big, big thing that the game has to offer, and I really wanted to do coverage on this. So, this is just going to be a basic overview, changes from the 3DS version, general strategy, just to level up because later on it gets grueling if you're not over leveled for a lot of this stuff. All right, so what is raid mode? Raid mode is essentially it puts you in stages from the campaign. You have to go from beginning to end, killing all the monsters in your way, trying to collect power-ups. It's very RPG style, and it's a very well done RPG take on the survival horror aspect. A lot of the stages are, you know, there's subtle changes to them that make them maybe harder or easier. For example, one of the boss stages doesn't have explosives, so you have to kill the boss as it is. But you can see health bars and things like that, how much damage you do. You can upgrade your weapons, as you can see. I'm going to cover that right now. And there's plenty, and you can redo stages as many times as you want. So let's start with the first one, stages. As you can see, there's three difficulties. Chasm, Trench, and Abyss. Chasm being the easiest, Trench being the medium difficulty, and Abyss being utterly fucking brutal. Plus a bonus stage for beating the campaign, the Ghost Ship, which is extremely difficult and not recommended to do it until level 50. For the most part, everything is the same here as in the 3DS version. One thing that I'm not sure if the 3DS version had because I didn't play it, my friends don't seem to be kind of surprised with these exclamation marks. When you see an exclamation mark over a level, it means that upon killing the boss, you'll receive either a weapon case or a custom part. There will be a random boss with a name somewhere in the level replacing a regular monster. So he won't be additional, but he'll be replacing another monster. This name can be very random. It can either be something as simple as Eric or Amy. It could be a Japanese name like Takayashi. I've seen that a few times. Or if you've ever done co-op on raid mode with somebody before, you can actually see their name as a zombie. For example, my friend's name is Hironi. I have a friend named Hickey. I've killed them both in many, many games with these exclamation marks. So it's a nice little bonus, although the incentive to go back and play isn't that great. You might level up a bit, but most likely the stages that have exclamation marks and additional monsters will have parts and weapons that are weaker than what you're really looking for. However, if you're looking for a reason to go back and gain more EXP, these are a great distraction from the game itself. So what's the main difference between Chasm, Trench, and Abyss? Well, obviously the level of the monsters, but the waves are remixed as well. The waves on Abyss are extremely, extremely difficult compared to the ones on both Trench and Chasm. They don't even compare to each other. So I definitely recommend taking it very slow when you're going through Abyss, especially because you're gonna need to level up. Leveling up a lot is very important. Now, I'll come back to leveling up, but that's all I wanted to show you with stages. Let's go over to characters. While I'm on this screen, let me show you what everything means here. As you can see, time is the total amount of time played in this mode. Recommended levels here, the name of the stage, your level, and your character name are both in the middle of the screen for co-op and for personal use in the top right. And then you have 4 bonuses. These 4 bonuses gain you additional bonus points to spend in the store. So they're essentially, by completing those challenges, you get money, and you can unlock achievements and additional characters and things like that, unlockables in raid mode. So what does each challenge mean? The first one is low level bonus. If you are equal to or less than the recommended level of the stage, you will get that bonus. No hit bonus, never get hit in the stage. Genocide bonus, kill every monster, and the Trinity bonus is for getting all 3, the 4th bonus on the right. So do as best you can to try and get as many of those bonuses early on as you can, because they'll become a lot more difficult to get later on. Then you have characters. Now, excuse me, because you're gonna have to laugh at some point with this. Characters essentially are different costumes for different characters that have different stats. So it actually does matter a lot when you go stage to stage. If you know what kind of enemies are going to be in the stage, you might prefer to use a different weapon, which means you might prefer to use a different character. Remember that some enemies are weaker to some weapons than others, and there might be monsters that spawn that normally have a resistance to weapons that do have a resistance to weapon in this specific level. So you may have to play a level a few times and get the hang of what weapons are effective against what monsters. You may have to educate yourself in that. Now, as you can see, a lot of the costumes, are all right. Some of them are interesting at the very least. Some of them aren't that great, but there are some that are definitely here for hilarity purposes. I've only unlocked one hilarious one, but I mean, come on, really? Look at that. That's Chris. If you had to play Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6 with Chris like that, would you be able to actually play the whole game if he was dressed as a fucking sailor? Well, let's move on because I can't take much more of that. Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention. If you want to go back and get a low level bonus, but you've already over leveled it, you have adjust your level. As you can see on the keyboard, it's F2, and I believe it's either I don't know. I use the PS3 controller, so I can't remember. Anyway, um, you can adjust your level. You can make it equal to or less than, or you can keep it above and just roll through the entire level. It's not a big deal. You also have the viewer, which just lets you look at the character models. And thank God I don't have the other one, the other Chris one viewed. Okay, so that's all there is in characters. Weapons. It's essentially the same as your loadout from the campaign. You have weapons. You have a storage amount. You can buy more storage, so you can store more weapons than what's currently available here. I only have storage plus one because I rarely ever need to hang on to a lot of weapons. As you can see, you get very, very similar boosts from the campaign, but there are some that are exclusive to whatever this is, raid mode, whatever it is. Full burst you get for using 1,000,000 bonus points in the store, so I highly recommend you get this quick. It fires all the remaining ammo in your capacity in one shot, basically. And then you have the basics. You have damage, you have fire rate, long magazine, bind, daisy, enrage. These are all ones from the campaign. Critical, easy hit, edge runner, infighter, outrange, wide, reloader. Now, these ones down here is where it starts to become raid specific. So you do have raid specific attachments. This one increases your partner's defense. This one heals you when you heals your partner when you heal yourself. This one gives enemies a chance to drop herbs. I am gonna start using this in Abyss mode because it would help immensely on some levels. Ammo magnet, when you kill enemies, they drop ammo. This is necessary for Ghost Ship, by the way. Metal detector. In case you're wondering why they're grayed out, it's because, as you can see, there are 5 weapons right next to the description. Those are the ones that are highlighted are the ones that it actually works for. Metal detector. Enemies have a 16% chance to drop bonus points. Fangs heals you, dehumanizer. But you get the idea that there's raid-specific attachments. So let's move on. Nothing more special go here. You have firepower, firing speed, capacity, and level. Always make sure to keep your weapon up to level. Try and get new weapons. Since you can't level up your weapons, make sure to keep getting new weapons in the store. The store basically has weapons, has attachments, has ammo bags that give you more capacity, and once you hit Abyss, you'll have these firepower boosts and everything. These permanently boost a single weapon stats. It's not a lot that it boosts it by, so I highly recommend waiting until 50 to start using these, if you're still going to be playing it after 50, that is. But and they increase it very, very minimally, so I really don't recommend spending points on these early. The rocket launcher, in case you're wondering, is a one-shot, one use, but it'll one-shot everything that it hits. So if you're really stuck in a jam only at one part and you think you can manage with only 2 weapons, and you have 60,000 BP to spare, you might want to look into this. But you can reload the store as many times as you want and get different weapons. They'll be of the level your character currently is. So if you lower your level in the store, if you lower your level in the character screen, then the store will reflect that. However, the store can occasionally have weapons that are higher level than you, but only by usually 1 level. And you can do this until you get the enchants and the open slots that you need. Obviously, there's enchants similar to the ones that were in the well, actually, they're only in this, steady hand increases certain stats. There's just a lot of things here. Lightweight, it makes it easier to use, but it lowers its attack. There's a lot of different stats you have to get used to. And then obviously you have the options. This is static across the campaign and raid mode, and then you have start. Now, I said at the beginning that I would mention leveling up because I've looked online because I am struggling with leveling up. And I'm not that I'm struggling, it's just extremely slow, and there seems to be no solid strategy for leveling up. So I'm going to share what I did in order to level up and in order to at least make the game a little bit more playable. When I played through Chasm, I basically just played through until the end. Towards the end, I started to get like maybe 1 or 2 levels under. But if you ever need to level up, you can always go back and play a short stage with the recommended level bonus. That way, your level is equal, so you get the right amount of EXP. You'll still get less, but at least you'll still get something. Also, if you want to distract yourself from progress, I would recommend going back and trying to get more of the bonuses. That way, you're still gaining EXP and you're still distracting yourself, but you're still distracting yourself from the actual grind because you have a separate goal in mind. Once you get to Trench, you might need to start grinding this first level a little bit more. Basically, this is by far on all difficulties the easiest stage to grind. There are some stages that are technically shorter, but these are have the easiest success rate, and probably the least amount of BP spent for EXP gained. So in terms of efficiency, these stages are always the best. Now, when you get to Abyss, Abyss is where a lot of people seem to be struggling. Not because well, part of the reason is because the levels are extremely hard and people are trying to solo them. That's a big thing. Once you get to Abyss, I highly recommend bringing a friend with you. Even if you don't have a friend, go make a friend who has this game, because even on the 3DS version or this version, you're really going to need help here on Abyss mode. So, on Abyss mode, what is so different? Well, the waves are extremely different, and the way the monsters attack are even different. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is on certain stages, enemies can have enchants. They can have one that gives them more power, one that gives them more defense, and ones that give them overall more stats, speed, strength, defense, everything. And then they have ones that make them small and fast. So, and those ones are hilarious, by the way. You'll always laugh every time you see them. Now, on Abyss, they abuse these things at all costs. This level, the beach, is one of the hardest levels I played thus far. If you're wondering why I don't have this stage beat, it's because I fucked up at some point. Pretty much, it's completely my fault. But this stage was really hard. I had to outlevel this stage. I had to get to level 35 before I could beat the stage with confidence, or at least even get far enough to know how much is in the stage. There are going to be things like Skagdead, which is the first boss in the Promenade deck in the campaign. He's going to be buffed. He's going to have ads. He's going to summon Scarmigliones, which are the guys with the swords and the shields. Then you're going to go to the next zone. There's going to be like 12 Scarmigliones with a bunch of hunters. You're going to fight more Skagdeads. Basically, what ends up happening is you end up fighting a lot of bosses as regular monsters, and they are not any easier just because they're regular monsters. They have less health, but they're not necessarily easier. Some of them are even harder with the remix waves, such as the speed or the attack bonus. So, Abyss, I highly recommend grinding this level for multiple reasons. One is you're going to want to get as much EXP as you can, because doing these levels at the recommended level is extremely difficult. If you ever get stuck, I highly recommend raising your level by at least 1 or 2, checking the store and buying some upgrades, and then coming back to the game with some better weapons, some better enchants, and things like that. Because until you clear all throughout Abyss, you're going to have a really hard time progressing through Abyss, because a lot of these levels are not easy. In case you're wondering about achievements, S rank everything gets you some additional characters too. Make sure you find a character that works good for you and unlock it as soon as possible, if possible, that you can unlock it. Obviously, the best ones all come from the hardest achievements. So, the last thing to talk about in raid mode before giving my overall synopsis is the Ghost Ship. Now, in the 3DS version, the Ghost Ship was most notoriously known for a stage that had false endings. Basically, what that means is there's these little gold medals at the end of every stage that when you melee hit them, you end the stage. That's how you end it. On the Ghost Ship in the 3DS version, there were many endings, so there were a lot of false endings where you could end the Ghost Ship level without actually winning. You'd get some EXP and you'd collect some of your bonuses, but it wouldn't be the complete finish that you needed in order to actually get a rank on this mission. So what's different about this one? That's gone. There is no false endings anymore. You have to go through the entire Ghost Ship. I think the reason for this is because people were kind of just doing Ghost Ship even from level 1 to overlevel everything. They would just get to the nearest false ending that they could and then move on. I don't know if the layouts changed at all from the 3DS version, but this is still an exceptionally hard level. I made it from the beginning of the game till about halfway through the upper cabins, and the monsters started hitting level 45-ish, and I'm only 35, so things got a little bit too rough. I might have been able to make a little bit farther with some smarter play, but overall this was an extremely difficult stage and is the penultimate goal of anyone looking to beat raid mode. So overall synopsis: it's a really well done mode. It's pretty fun when you play with a friend. Technical difficulties, I will put an annotation over that. I highly recommend buying this game in conjunction with a friend. If you can get a sale on it, that would be really good. The game is $50 naturally, and raid mode is really where you get the most out of your $50. The campaign, you could beat on Infernal, Casual, and Normal a few times over, but this is where you'll really spend most of your time, and this is an extremely long grind. If you like RPG like long grinds and you want to combine it with an FPS, this is a pretty good way to do it. When you play with a friend, though, few words to the wise. Sometimes there will be lag, especially if you're not LAN. If you're LAN, that shouldn't happen. But if you're playing like over Mumble, if you're playing over Vent or something like that, and you're playing with a friend who's not in the immediate vicinity, certain things may happen that may seem strange. I mean, obviously there's going to be lag between you and him because he's going to be connecting to you or you're going to be connecting to him. but things that might happen, like an enemy might be in a different spot on the screen for you than it is on their screen. The one thing that's kind of impressive though is that even though that happens, even though the enemy is obviously in only one of those two spots, both players can hit the enemy from where they are standing. So if that ends up happening, you can still as the person lagging, hit the enemy in the spot where they're absolutely not standing. So it looks kind of interesting. And I highly recommend if you're into Resident Evil games that you pick this one up. This one was really fun. There are some negativities to the campaign, but you know, it's things that mainly carried over from the 3DS version. So I'm not going to speak about those. Raid mode, a lot of fun. I hope you guys are looking forward to playing this game. It's been out for a little bit over a week now. I think now is about a good time to go find a friend and to go buy it. So thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in raid mode, especially when you get to Abyss, because it's going to be